The drama surrounding Abdullah Mason doesn't begin with a single punch or even a single fight. It begins with a feeling, a quiet, creeping realization that what you're watching isn't normal, that this isn't just another prospect climbing the ranks, another name padded with wins and hype. No, this is something else entirely. The kind of talent that doesn't just win fights, but reshapes them. The kind that forces you to stop mid-sentence, abandon analysis, and just stare as the moment unfolds. Because with Abdullah Mason, there are moments where even the commentary becomes irrelevant. Moments where instinct takes over, where the only appropriate reaction is silence, followed by disbelief. At just 22 years old, Mason stands at the edge of greatness, not yet in his prime, but already operating at a level most fighters spend entire careers chasing. His record remains untouched, unblemished, a perfect run that tells one story. But the truth lies deeper than numbers. It lives in the way he moves, the way he sees, the way he punishes even the smallest mistake with surgical precision. And yet, for all his brilliance, there was always that lingering question: what happens when things don't go his way? That answer came violently. When Mason stepped into the ring against Johan Vasquez, it wasn't supposed to be a war. On paper, it looked like another step forward, another name added to the growing list of victims. But boxing doesn't care about expectations, and Vasquez came with no intention of playing his role. From the opening exchanges, there was tension, a subtle shift in rhythm. Vasquez wasn't folding, he was pressing, testing, pushing Mason into uncomfortable territory. Then, suddenly, the unthinkable happened. Abdullah Mason hit the canvas. For the first time in his professional career, the invincible looked human. The arena erupted, not just in noise, but in shock. This wasn't part of the script. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. And before anyone could fully process it, it happened again. Another shot, another moment of vulnerability. The kind of sequence that can unravel fighters, expose them, break them. You could feel the doubt creeping in, not just from the crowd, but from the narrative itself. Was this the moment the illusion shattered? But what followed wasn't collapse, it was revelation. Mason didn't panic, he didn't retreat into survival mode. Instead, something shifted behind his eyes, a recalibration, a reminder that greatness isn't defined by perfection, it's defined by response. He came forward, not recklessly, not blindly, but with controlled aggression. Every punch now carried intention. Every movement was sharper, more deliberate. He began targeting the body, digging into Vasquez with a quiet brutality that spoke of experience far beyond his years. "You hold me, you better hold me tight," he had warned, and now those words came alive. Because when Mason smells weakness, he doesn't chase the head, he breaks the foundation. The finish came not with a dramatic headshot, but with something more methodical, a precise strike to the solar plexus, a punch designed not just to hurt, but to end. Vasquez folded, the fight slipping away as quickly as it had turned. It wasn't flawless, it wasn't clean, but it was necessary. Because in that chaos, Abdullah Mason proved something far more important than dominance. He proved resilience. He proved that even when the script falls apart, he has the composure and the cruelty to rewrite it. And from that moment on, something changed. The next time he stepped into the ring, there was no hesitation, no lingering doubt, only purpose. Against Manuel Yaimes, Mason didn't just fight, he made a statement. From the opening bell, the difference was clear. This was a fighter who had learned, who had evolved. His jab, already dangerous, now carried a different weight. Not just a rangefinder, but a weapon. Each one snapping through the air with authority, freezing his opponent just long enough to set the trap. Because that's what Mason does best. He sets traps. The jab lands, the opponent reacts, and in that split second of hesitation, the real damage arrives. A left uppercut, a straight shot down the middle, a hook that comes from nowhere, unseen until it's too late. Jaimes tried to adjust, tried to find answers, but there's a particular kind of frustration that comes with facing a fighter like Mason. It's not just that he's faster or stronger, it's that he seems to know what you're about to do before you do it. And when that realization sets in, the fight becomes something else entirely. It becomes survival. Every exchange felt one-sided. Every attempt by Jaimes to close the distance was met with precision counters. Mason wasn't just reacting, he was anticipating, drawing mistakes out of his opponent, then punishing them with ruthless efficiency. The knockdowns came naturally, not forced, not desperate, but inevitable. By the time the finish arrived, it didn't feel like a question of if, but when. Mason closed the show with the same calm intensity he had displayed throughout, leaving no doubt that the previous fight had not shaken him, it had sharpened him. And yet, even as the wins piled up, the comparisons began. The way he throws his uppercuts, the way he targets the body, the way he controls distance with a punishing jab. There were echoes of greatness in his style, whispers of fighters who had dominated before him. But Mason isn't an imitation, he's a progression. Against Carlos Ornelas, that progression became even more evident. This wasn't just about power or speed anymore, it was about control, the ability to dictate not just the pace, but the entire narrative of the fight. From the outside, it looked effortless, but inside the ring, it was anything but. Ornelas tried to disrupt the rhythm, changing angles, adjusting his timing. For brief moments, there were flashes of resistance, small pockets where it seemed like he might find a way in. But Mason closed those gaps quickly, because what separates him isn't just his offense, it's his understanding, the ability to recognize patterns, to adapt in real time, to make corrections without hesitation. He doesn't just throw combinations, he builds them. Each punch setting up the next, each reaction from his opponent feeding into a larger sequence. And when the opening finally comes, it's exploited with devastating precision. The body once again became the target, because Mason understands something many fighters overlook. Headshots may excite the crowd, but body shots end careers. And when Ornelas began to slow, when the movement faded and the reactions dulled, the outcome became inevitable. The finish came with patience, not rushed, not forced, earned. By the time he stepped into the ring against Jeremiah Nakatila, there was a sense that this wasn't just another fight. It was a gateway, a final test before something bigger. Nakatila brought experience, power, a reputation built on toughness. On paper, he was the kind of opponent designed to expose flaws. But Mason approached it differently. There was no rush this time, no need to prove anything in the early rounds. Instead, he took his time, studying, observing, letting the fight come to him. It was a different kind of dominance, subtle, calculated. Nakatila tried to disrupt the rhythm, changing angles, adjusting his timing. For brief moments, there were flashes of resistance, small pockets where it seemed like he might find a way in. But Mason closed those gaps quickly, because what separates him isn't just his offense, it's his understanding, the ability to recognize patterns, to adapt in real time, to make corrections without hesitation. He doesn't just throw combinations, he builds them, each punch setting up the next, each reaction from his opponent feeding into a larger sequence. And when the opening finally comes, it's exploited with devastating precision. The body once again became the target, because Mason understands something many fighters overlook. Headshots may excite the crowd, but body shots end careers. And when Ornelas began to slow, when the movement faded and the reactions dulled, the outcome became inevitable. The finish came with patience, not rushed, not forced, earned. By the time he stepped into the ring against Jeremiah Nakatila, there was a sense that this wasn't just another fight. It was a gateway, a final test before something bigger. Nakatila brought